the 27th chapter of the book of Yechezkel. We continue with these stories about Tyre, about Sor, this country, this city, I should say, where wealthy place, not exactly clear, doesn't make sense 100% as to why. The great opposition to it, but that's what we will continue with. So we're told, Vayihi dvar Adonai elai lemor, v'ata ben adam, sa al tzor kina. So Yechezkel is told to make a dirge for Tyre. We talked about this yesterday towards the end of the chapter, that we're going to have it a couple more times. This idea, I'm not sure why, is there is this lament that we're being told should happen with Tyre, this lament. And so what is this lament? What are you going to say? V'yamarta letzor, hayoshevet al nivoot yam, rochelet hamim eliyim rabim, ko amar Adonai Elohim, Sor, at amart ani klilat yofi. So say to Tyre, you who's the gateway to the sea, right? You're these great traders, and you boasted, I am perfect, I am beautiful, right? Klilat yofi, we talk about Yerushalayim be klilat yofi. Belev yamim gvulayich bonayich kalalu yofiech. Your frontiers, right? You're in the high seas. You built beautifully. Baroshim mi Sinir banu lach. You took cypress trees from Sinir. Et kolu chotayim, for which you made planks. Erez milvanon lakachu lasot toren alayich. And you took cedar from Lebanon to make a mast for you. Alonim mi bashan asu mishotayich karshech asu shein bat ashurim me'ayeh kitim. You took oak trees from Bashan for your oars, and boxwood from the Isles of Kitim, and there was ivory, and you made your deck, right? So this is an island, and here the islands we're being told is how it is being, it's like a boat, right? They're taking the best materials to make the greatest ship. So is it literally talking about a ship, or it's talking about the entire island, the entire Tyre, as if it were a ship made of the most beautiful things? And it continues, Sheish birik mami mitzrayim hayam for sheikh liot laich lach lenes tchelet v'argaman yeh elisha hayam mechasech, right? So linen from Egypt and cloth that was for your sails, and blue and purple from the coasts of Elisha were your awnings. Yoshveit Sidon v'arvad hayu shatim lach chachomayich tzor hayuvach hema chov layich. The inhabitants of Sidon and Arvad, right? Those were the people you got to row your ships. Skilled men were with you. They were your pilots. Ziknei gval v'chachamer hayubach machzikei badarkeich kol oniot, hayam uma lachehem hayuvach laorev ma'arvech. Right? Its elders and artisans were with you, making repairs. Right? All the ships of the seas were in your harbor, in order to trade, in order to do business. So, as I said yesterday, at least to me, it's a little bit unusual as to why there's an elegy, a kina, laments. What did Sor do that was so terribly talked yesterday about how they gloated, how Jerusalem's downfall is their gain and their benefit, but it didn't seem so terrible to me. And so far in this chapter, so far we've seen, so they used the best, they built the best. Okay, they said that we're the best, we're the most beautiful. Continuing verse 10, Paras valud ufut hayu b'chelech hadshemel chamteich bagain b'chovat tiluvach hema natnu hadadech. The men of Paras and Lud and Put were your army, your warriors. They hung shields and helmets in your midst. They let splendor to you. Presumably these were paid militias. Bnei Arvad v'chelech hachomotayich saviv v'gamadim b'migdolotayich hayu shaltem tilu hachomotayich saviv hema kalalu yofiech. So again, the men from Arvad and Chelech were up on your walls to defend you, right, to protect you. The men of Gamad in your towers, they hung quivers all over your walls. They perfected your beauty. That's the translation there. I would say perfected. I would say in a sense protected your beauty, unless they were very beautiful soldiers and maybe they made them perfect in their beauty. But they protected the beauty of the city. Tarshish. Right, we know Tarshish. We'll get there. The book of Yonah mentions Tarshish, which is also a great trading city. Socharteich me'rov kolhon bakesa barzel bedil v'oferet natnu izvonayich. They traded with you because of all your wealth and all your goods, the silver and iron and copper and lead. Yavan, Tuval, Vameshach, Hema, Rochlayich. Right, so these three places, Yavan,
Tuval and Meshach, they were your merchants. Benefesh Adam Uchlei Nechoshet Natnu Ma'arvech. They trafficked with you in human beings and copper utensils. There's we get something that's a little bit interesting here. Is all of a sudden we've gone from gold and silver and tin and copper, and maybe today we talk about blood diamonds. I'm not sure that those were that it was the same thing back then. But here we start to see that there's something that's a little bit off. There's something a little bit wrong, and that is that they are involved in the slave trade. Now, they may not have thought of the slave trade as being as morally problematic as we think of it today, but clearly it's, I think everybody knew at all times that it wasn't trading a slave is not the same thing as trading a piece of gold. I think everybody knew that forever. I don't know if they put it in the same way. And there is talk in I believe it's in the book of Yoel, that about 100, 150 years before the destruction of the Beit HaMikdash, that when there were Jews who lost in battle, there were Israelites, I think it was the northern kingdom, lost in battle and slaves were taken, that Yoel says that the people of Tsor, these Tyre, these merchants, were involved in the slave trade of Israelites who were captured, which, maybe, again, a reason as to why God is so angry. Why, 100 years later, what is it so upsetting about? But that's at least something that we see there that's making things, looking, at least to me, a little bit worse. We're in verse 14, Pasuk Yudal, Mibeit Togar Masusim Ufarashim Ufradim Natnua Izvonayich. Right, from these places, you boarded horses and riders and mules. Bnei Dedan, Rochlaich, Yim Rabim, Sochrot, Yodech, Karnot, Shein, Vahav, Nim, Heshivu, Esh Karech. The people of Dedan, again, were merchants, and they traded under your rule and rendered your tribute with ivory tusk. Aram, Sochartech, Aram, because of, right, traded also, Merov Ma'asaich, because of your great wealth. Beno Fates, Argaman, Vrikma, Ufutz, Veramot, Vacharkot, Natnu Baz, Vonayich. They all these different colors. You had all these great stuff, embroidery, and coral, and Yehuda, Eretz Yisrael, Hema Rochlaich, Judah, and the lands of Israel were also merchants with you. Bechitei, Minit, Fanag, Udvash, V'Shem, V'Tzori, Natnu Ma'arvech. They traded with you wheat and wheat for Minith and Panang, and honey and oil and balm, Damesach, Sochartech, Barov Masach, Merov Kolhon, B'Yain, Chalbon, V'Tzemer, Sachar. And here too, so now we have Damascus. They traded you wine and wool. Udan v'Yavan Uzal Bazvonaich Natanu Barzel Asot Kita v'Kana Ma'areva Hayu. So these places, Vadan and Yavan and Uzal, the iron and cassia and calamus, Dedan Rochlotaich b'Videi Chofer. So Dedan saddlecloths for riding. Arav v'Chodisei Kedar. So now we have all the way down to Arabia and Kedar. What did they trade? Hey Masochrei Yodech b'Charim ve'Elim v'Atudim Bam Sochrei. They trade with you lambs and rams and goats, Rochlei Shvav, Rama, Hema, Rochlaich, Parosh, Kolbosev, V'chol, Evan, Yikarav, Zav, Natnu, Izvonaich. Sheba and Rama, right? What did they barter for you? Spices and stones and gold. We're getting there. Haran, V'chena, V'eden, Rochlei Shva, Ashud, V'kalmad, Rochnataich. So these places, right? Eden and Kaneh, they traded with you. The merchants of Sheba traded with you. Hema, Rochlaich, B'mich, Lulim, B'glomei, Tchelet, V'rikmal, Ginzei beromim b'chavalim chavushim v'aruzim b'marchulatech. And these 5 nations, what did they trade? Embroidered cloaks of blue and then all sorts of different colored carpets. Okay, etc., etc. Neo Tarshish, the ships of Tarshish. We had Tarshish mentioned before. Now we talk about the ships of Tarshish, which are mentioned other places in the Tanakh as well. Sharotaich na'arvech v'timlei v'tichbedi ma'od b'leiv yamim. The ships of Tarshish were in your service for trade, full of all sorts of rich items. B'mayim rabim heviuch hashatim otach ruach hakadim shivarech b'leiv yamim. Your oarsmen brought you out into the mighty waters, and what happened? The tempest wrecked you on high seas. So here we have, right, they were great traders. They had everything, but then they went into the sea. They are the ship. They are this boat, and the boat was destroyed. Honech va'azvunayich ma'arvech machlaich v'chovlaich machzikei badkeich v'arvei ma'arvech v'chlanshe machutech asher bach v'kol ka'aleich asher betochech yiplu b'leiv yamim b'yom mafaltech. On your day of disaster, on the day of your downfall, all your wealth, all your materials, all your merchandise, your sailors, your pilots, those who repaired your ships, those who carried your goods, all of the warriors, everybody went down into the depths of the sea. Lekolza akat chovalayich yirashu migroshot. the outcry of your pilots, the billows heave, right? V'yardu me'anotayim kol tovshei mashot malachim kol chovlei hayam el ha'eretz yamodu, all the oarsmen, the mariners, the pilots, right? Everything is heading down. Vishmiu alaych bekolam yizaku mara. They raise their voices and cry out bitterly. V'yalu afar roshem be'efar yitpalashu. They cast dust on their heads and threw ashes on themselves when they heard about your downfall, about the falling of this ship, this civilization, this society of Tyre, who everything went through, all the trade went through. We talked about like it was Singapore or something of that sort. I guess the sort of, in a sense, we would say 25 years ago, we would say this is like it's Walmart's. Or we would say it's Amazon. If Amazon goes down and all the people are selling on Amazon all over the world and everybody's now dependent upon Amazon to buy everything, the whole thing has gone falling down. What is everybody going to do? I guess eBay would have its day finally again. So, right. So everybody is falling down. Everybody's, because this society is destroyed. The boat is destroyed. Just continuing a few more verses. And because of this, they start mourning practices. They're scarifying themselves. They're wearing sackcloth. They're crying out. They're lamenting. And then they will lament. Who was like Tyre in the midst of the sea, right? I don't know. Maybe you had people who love Sears, and when Sears went bankrupt, Sears, Kmart, whatever it might be, as the world changed. I mean, this is not exactly what's going on, but in a sense, it is what's going on. These companies that could never be, the banks that could never fail, the countries, the civilizations that could never fail, the things that were too great, too big, and now they're destroyed. I think I just saw a couple of days ago somebody offered like $20 billion to buy out, I don't remember the exact number. No, I think it was like $6 billion to buy out Macy's. I think $6 billion to buy Macy's. I thought Macy's building on 34th Street is worth $100 billion. I know it's not worth $100 billion. But the point being is, right, there are things that don't last forever. Now, we have that in the book of Yeshaya over and over again. Civilizations rise and they fall. That's just the reality of things. That's the way it is in the world. Nothing lasts forever. Right? That's just, and so here, this country soar. It's not necessarily that they did anything so horrific. It's just what, in a sense, what they represent. They represent the society that thinks they're great, think they're in charge of everything, think they're on the top, and they will fall. Let's continue. Let's finish the last few verses. 33. B'tzeit izvonaich mi'amim hishpat amim rabim berov honaich u'me'arvayich ha'eshart malchei eretz. Right? Your trading, we'll just call it, satisfied many people with great wealth and merchandise. Right? Think of all the people who sell on Amazon, make a living selling on Amazon, or a great living selling on Amazon. 8. But when you were wrecked in the seas, in the deep waters, their merchandise sank, and all the crew with it. All the inhabitants in the coastlands are appalled. Their kings are shocked. Their faces are aghast. They're contorted. So charim ba'amim sharku alaych balhot hayit v'einech ad olam. The merchants among the people, they hissed at you, because you are now an embarrassment. Your reputation is destroyed. You become a horror. You've ceased forever. We have this same ending, this word balahot. Yesterday we didn't know exactly, not clear what it means. Is it like lahava, like a fire? It's not exactly clear what the word means. But we have here again the destruction of Tyre. We said it yesterday, we'll say it again. These prophecies of Yechezkel don't come true during this time. He says Nebuchadnezzar in the last chapter is going to attack them. Nebuchadnezzar attacks them. He's not successful. Nebuchadnezzar, the Babylonians, the army is there for 12, 13, 14 years. And because Tyre is an island then, today it's not an island, we talked about it yesterday. Today, if you look at it on the map, it's connected, it's part of Lebanon, but it was an island and he couldn't conquer it. It was not conquered until Alexander the Great, hundreds of years later, which leaves other questions. But this prophecy does not come true during the days of Yechezkel. It does not come true until hundreds of years after his death, when the Greeks, Alexander brings and fills up the sea with rocks and waste, and then finally he can bring his infantry and he can take over Tyre. But it represents this idea, which we know is a very major idea in many books in the Tanakh. You think you're so great, you think you're in charge, you think you have all the money in the world, nobody can mess with you, you're the most beautiful. God is in charge. And so, is it something that Tyre does terribly wrong? It's hard to tell. It seems more likely that they're representative of something that God is saying needs to be expunged, needs to be removed, and thus they